Welcome to the Nonfiction Insights channel. Today we're diving deep into Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. Okay, let's get into it. Burkeman starts with something pretty stark. The average human lifespan, if you hit around 80, it's roughly 4,000 weeks.
4,000, okay. It sounds like quite a bit when you just say the number, but then he contrasts that, doesn't he? What's the bigger picture he paints?
He does. He immediately zooms out, thinks about modern humans being around for hundreds of thousands of years,
Yeah.
and the Earth potentially having another, billion and a half years of life?
Wow. Okay, so our 4,000 weeks suddenly seem incredibly small, almost nothing.
Precisely, like a blink of an eye. And he argues that this awareness, often subconscious, is what fuels so much modern anxiety. That urge to check your phone, the feeling that your job isn't meaningful enough, even things like online outrage culture.
How does he connect it to outrage culture? That's interesting.
Well, the idea is that attention itself is scarce, right? Part of that finite time. So the battle for it becomes intense, and sometimes negative engagement still feels like engagement with our limited time. It's all tied back to this feeling that we're somehow misusing this tiny slice of existence.
Okay. And he mentions the 2020 lockdown experience, too.
Yeah, he touches on how that really amplified things for many people. Time felt strange, warped, slow and fast simultaneously. Future plans felt suspended. It just brought that fleeting nature of time right to the surface.
So that finitude, that basic shortness, is the foundation. How does he link that directly to our obsession with productivity?
He calls it the productivity trap. We're constantly looking for techniques, hacks, ways to squeeze more in.
The whole life hacking movement, getting things done.
Exactly. And look, he admits some of these techniques do work. You might answer more emails, tick off more boxes.
That's always a but.
The paradox is it often makes us feel more pressured, more anxious, kind of empty even. It's like time becomes this relentless conveyor belt. The more efficient you get, the faster the belt moves.
Ah, so you clear the decks and then more stuff just immediately floods in.
Right. It potentially just speeds you up towards burnout. And you have that feeling, don't you? A packed day. But did you do what really mattered?
Definitely. It's that feeling of being busy, but not necessarily effective in a deeper sense.
That's the trap. Lots of motion, but maybe not towards what you truly value.
He mentions John Maynard Keynes, the economist, and his prediction about working hours. What was that about?
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. Back in 1930, Keynes predicted we'd be working like 15-hour weeks by now.
15 hours? Why did he think that?
Because of technology, increasing wealth. He thought the main problem would be figuring out what to do with all our leisure time.
So what went wrong? Or what did Keynes miss?
Burkeman argues our desires just expand. We meet one set of needs, and instantly, new wants, new expectations pop up. Plus, busyness itself became a status symbol. Being rushed off your feet signals importance. Right.
Right. It's almost competitive. Who's busier?
Exactly. So more productivity doesn't lead to more leisure. It often just fuels the engine for more work, more consumption, more perceived needs.
Okay, so it's not just being busy, it's being busy with potentially the wrong things. He talks about that feeling, doesn't he?
Yes, getting the wrong things done. It's deeper than just overwhelm. It's this nagging sense that your time isn't going towards what genuinely matters to you.
A sort of misalignment.
Yeah, a misalignment. There's this yearning for meaning, but we default to easier, less fulfilling stuff, or just what's shouting loudest.
And this is where traditional time management fails us.
Fundamentally, yes, because it operates on this illusion, this unspoken promise that eventually you'll get everything under control. You'll clear the decks for good.
Which, given the 4,000 weeks, is impossible.
Exactly. It's an impossible standard. We can't possibly do everything that seems worthwhile or that others demand.
He uses a historical comparison here, the medieval farmer. What's the point he's making?
Oh, this is a great insight for me. He contrasts our clock-driven life with their task orientation.
Task orientation.
Yeah. Their work was tied to the tasks themselves, which were often cyclical, unending. There was always more land to till, animals to care for.
So there wasn't that pressure to finish everything because it was understood you never could.
Precisely. Time wasn't this abstract thing ticking away in the background. It was the activities. He gives these amazing examples.
Yep.
Measuring time by how long it took to say a prayer, like a miser while.
Or even a pissing while.
Right. It just shows how different their relationship with time was. It was concrete, embodied, not this abstract resource to be managed and optimized.
So seeing that difference, how do we get to a healthier place? What's the alternative Burkeman suggests?
It starts with embracing limitations, really internalizing that finite reality.
Accepting we can't do it all. That feels Radical.
It is. It means consciously accepting you won't have time for everything you want to do or everything others expect. And the relief comes when you stop beating yourself up for failing at an impossible task.
So it's about making choices, conscious choices about what not to do.
Yes, deliberately choosing where your focus goes, and just as importantly, what you're going to neglect. He even questions that whole keep your options open thing.
Oh, how so?
He suggests that making firm commitments, actually closing off some doors, can be more fulfilling instead of hovering indecisively.
Because commitment gives your choices weight.
Exactly. And it
Ah,
ties into the fear of missing out, FOMO.
right. If you commit, you're definitely missing out on other things. How does he frame that?
He says missing out isn't a risk, it's a guarantee. Every choice to do X is automatically a choice not to do Y, Z, and a million other things.
Okay.
But that's what makes the choice meaningful. If you could do everything, no single thing would matter that much. Accepting limitation means accepting these trade-offs.
Okay, that makes sense. Accepting limitation helps with FOMO. How does it help with feeling overwhelmed? He uses that phrase, existential overwhelm.
Right. Logically, he says, if you don't have time for everything, you just don't.
Yeah.
That voice inside saying you should be able to cope is mistaken.
But it feels so real, that pressure.
It does. And trying to solve it by doing more just makes it worse. That's Parkinson's law, right? Work expands to fill the time.
So existential overwhelm is more than just too many tasks.
Yeah, it's deeper. It's caused by the modern world offering this almost infinite supply of seemingly worthwhile things, books to read, places to see, skills to learn, causes to support.
An unmanageable abundance of options.
Exactly, creating this huge gap between what seems possible or desirable and what we can actually do in 4,000 weeks.
And older societies maybe didn't feel this quite so intensely.
Perhaps not. He suggests things like belief in an afterlife, or seeing history as cyclical rather than linear progress might have lessened that pressure to maximize this specific life.
It's interesting. It's like our modern focus on the individual, unique life adds to the pressure.
It could do, yeah. So that connects to the idea of control and how we relate to the future. What's his take there?
He points out a paradox with belief in eternal life. It can actually make this life seem less urgent, less important.
Because you have infinite time later.
Sort of, whereas facing our finitude, our mortality, can lead to a more honest, engaged relationship with the time we do have. He calls it a bright sadness or sober joy.
A bright sadness. I like that. It's not despairing, but it's realistic.
Right. And he challenges the idea that infinite time is the default and death is an injustice. Maybe, he suggests, getting any time at all is the miracle.
Flipping the perspective. Instead of feeling robbed of infinity, feeling grateful for the finite amount we get.
Exactly. And this is why he critiques that common rocks in the jar time management analogy.
Oh, the one about putting the big important things in first. Why doesn't he like that?
Because, he argues, our time isn't really like a fixed container you can perfectly fill in the right order. Life is messier, less predictable. You can't perfectly schedule it all.
So if that model is flawed, what's a better way to prioritize?
He uses the financial analogy. Pay yourself first, with time. Don't wait for leftover time for the important stuff. Schedule it in first, even if it's just a small amount, regularly.
So guarantee time for what matters rather than hoping it fits in later.
Precisely. Make it non-negotiable right at the start.
Okay, that makes practical sense. Now what about distraction? It feels like the enemy of focused time.
It often is. But Burkeman's take is interesting. He says distraction isn't just external things grabbing us. Often, it's an internal urge.
An urge to escape something.
Yeah, often in an attempt to flee something uncomfortable or difficult about our present reality. We're not just victims of distraction, we often seek it out.
We collaborate in our own distraction. Why? To avoid what?
Could be boredom, difficulty, anxiety, or even, he suggests, avoiding the bigger truth of our lack of control, our finitude. Distraction is a temporary escape from that.
So scrolling through social media might be a way of avoiding a hard task, or even just the quiet discomfort of being alone with our thoughts.
It could be, yes. And this ties into worry about the future, too.
How so?
Our desire to make the future certain, predictable, controllable, that fuels a lot of worry and planning. But the future isn't certain.
We never really have time in the future, do we? Only now.
Right. We only have expectations. And trying to nail down the future is another way we resist the uncertainty that comes with being finite.
Which leads nicely into what he calls the when I finally mindset. What's that about?
That's the habit of living for the future, when I finally get this promotion, or when I finally have more time, or When the kids are old,
I'll be happy, or then I'll do what I really want.
exactly. Always deferring meaning and satisfaction to some future point that may never arrive or won't be the magic bullet we imagine.
He even critiques education for sometimes fostering this,
How?
by framing each stage mainly as preparation for the next stage. School prepares you for university, which prepares you for a career. You're always preparing, never just being.
Right. The present moment loses its intrinsic value. It's just a stepping stone.
He calls it the causal catastrophe when applied to childhood, valuing childhood only for the adult it produces, not for the experience of being a child.
That's powerful. And he connects this to observations about different cultures.
Yeah, that cliche about people in, say, less wealthy countries sometimes being better at enjoying the present, he suggests it might relate to a less instrumental view of time.
Not always thinking about what this moment can get you later.
Exactly. Just experiencing it for what it is. Although he cautions that trying too hard to be present can also backfire.
The paradox of mindfulness. Okay, let's shift to rest. How does our productivity obsession mess with rest?
Hugely. Our culture tends to see rest only in terms of its benefit for future work. Rest is okay if it makes you more productive later.
So rest isn't valuable in itself, only as a tool.
Often, yes. There's even pressure to spend your leisure time well, meaning productively,
Yeah.
or for self-improvement. Anything else feels wasteful.
Which is stressful in itself.
Totally. And many of us develop this pathological productivity, feeling anxious or guilty when not doing something deemed productive.
Where does that come from?
He touches on historical roots, like the Protestant work ethic, anxieties about idleness, maybe signaling you weren't one of the elect in some theological views. Hard work became a virtue in itself.
So what's the antidote? How do we rediscover real rest?
Hobbies. Doing things purely for the enjoyment, with no goal of mastery, profit, or productivity.
Just for the sake of doing them.
Yes. He even says embracing being mediocre at a hobby can be incredibly freeing, taking the pressure off.
I love that. Permission to be average at something fun. Okay, what about patience? How does that fit in?
Patience isn't just about passively waiting. He frames it as a crucial skill in a finite life. Rushing things can obscure the real solution.
So patience helps us navigate problems more effectively.
Yes. He gives 3 principles. First, develop a taste for having problems.
A taste for problems? That sounds odd.
Meaning, accept that life is a series of problems to be navigated. The idea of reaching a state of no problems is a fantasy. So get comfortable with the process of tackling them.
Okay, accept the reality of ongoing challenges. What's second?
Embrace radical incrementalism.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Kind of. He even suggests stopping work on something while you still feel energized, to build that muscle of stopping and being patient rather than pushing to exhaustion.
Interesting. Resisting the urge to just power through. And the third principle,
Originality lies on the far side of unoriginality,
meaning
meaning finding your unique contribution often requires putting in the time, doing the groundwork, mastering the basics within a field first. You can't just jump to being original, like buses that follow the same route initially before diverging.
that requires patience, sticking with something long enough. He also talks about synchronicity and community. What's the connection to time?
Our modern focus on individual freedom and optimizing our own schedules has led to desynchronization,
We're all on our own timetables.
pretty much, which makes it harder to coordinate shared activities, community events, even just spontaneous time with friends and family.
And that loss of shared time has consequences.
He argues it does. Studies show synchronized holidays, for instance, actually boost overall societal happiness. Shared time matters.
And things like group activities, marching, singing.
Yes, synchronized activities foster cohesion, a sense of shared experience. It makes time feel more real, more meaningful, less isolating.
So the suggestion is to prioritize things that require coordinating with others.
Yes, deliberately making commitments that pull you into shared time, into the physical world, resisting the pull of purely individual, asynchronous digital life.
Okay. Now, towards the end, he introduces cosmic insignificance therapy. What on earth is that?
It sounds dramatic, but it's quite profound. He suggests our desire for time mastery often comes from an underlying unspoken belief in our own central importance.
We think we're the main character.
Kind of, yeah. Cosmic insignificance therapy
Yeah.
is about confronting the likelihood that in the grand scheme of the universe, we're, well, not very significant at all.
And that's supposed to be helpful.
Surprisingly, yes. Realizing your cosmic irrelevance can be incredibly liberating. It takes the pressure off needing to achieve something monumental or leave a huge mark.
So you don't have to earn your existence through grand achievements.
Exactly. Valuing your 4,000 weeks isn't about becoming famous or changing the world. It's about engaging with this life on its own terms. And maybe from that place of not needing to prove anything, you can actually do more genuine good.
How might that change daily life?
He asks you to consider, how would your days look if you weren't so invested in seeing your actions reach some grand fruition? Think of people working on projects that might take centuries, that they'll never see finished.
Like cathedral builders or long-term environmental projects. This connects to his idea of embracing hopelessness, doesn't it? Which also sounds bleak.
It does sound bleak initially, but he means letting go of the need for guaranteed positive outcomes, for complete security,
Why?
because that guarantee isn't possible. We live with this tension, bracing against potential future bad stuff. Getting the hang of hopelessness means realizing things aren't going to be perfectly okay, because they already aren't perfectly okay, and that's, well, okay.
So accepting imperfection and uncertainty rather than constantly fighting for a perfect, secure future.
Right. And abandoning that need for total security can actually be energizing. It frees you up to focus on doing what you can do, the few things that really count here and now.
Like choosing your battles?
Yeah.
In activism, charity?
Exactly. You can't care equally or effectively about everything. Accepting your finite capacity means focusing your care and effort where it feels most meaningful or impactful for you.
Okay, that reframes hopelessness significantly. So, wrapping up, he offers some practical strategies for actually living with finitude. Can you recap a few key ones?
Sure. A big one is choosing to be present where you are. Resist multitasking. Give one thing your full attention.
Easier said than done.
Definitely. Also, embracing boring single-purpose technology. Make your phone less appealing. Use tools that just do one job.
Reduce the avenues for distraction. Makes sense.
Seek out more deep time moments, things that absorb you where you lose track of the clock.
Like flow states.
Yeah, like flow. Cultivate instantaneous generosity, act on kind impulses. Now, don't schedule them for later.
I like that one.
Learn to do nothing. Just be sometimes without trying to optimize or fix your experience.
Resisting the urge to always be on.
Right. Give up on being efficient about everything. Focus on being effective where it matters. Let go of needing measurable progress for all valuable activities.
Some things are valuable just for the experience itself.
Exactly. Understand you're already enough. Stop striving to become some idealized future self. And finally, choose curiosity over worry when facing the unknown future. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Ultimately, this deep dive into 4,000 weeks offers a really profound shift. It's about moving away from that exhausting chase for productivity, acknowledging our limits.
Now finding more meaning in the present, within those limits.
Yeah. We hope this exploration has given you some valuable insights, maybe even a sense of relief, permission to let go of that impossible goal of perfect time management. Now, we really encourage you to think about these ideas. How might they resonate? How might they shift things within your own 4,000 weeks? Please subscribe to the Nonfiction Insights channel for more explorations of compelling ideas.